Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas, in our ongoing study in Metaphysics by Borden Parker Bowne, dated in 1882. We've looked at the entire structure to his system, his phenomenology, and now Professor Bowne wants to address the issue of change and transcendence. How does change and transcendence take place within this metaphysic? And it'll be pages 101 to 118. We'll begin with block 1 and take a look at logic set into reality. The real as community and interaction. Bowne says things possess forces of interaction. System abbreviates both individuality and community. There is a community of being, says Professor Bowne. There is a community of being. Now, under the notion of action, interaction is where one thing is determined by another, and that creates new states of being and new states of mind. Now, under note 2, interaction as a possibility, determination equals the logical determination of ideas, which contain fixed relations and which constitutes the true. The logical determination of ideas is an interrelated notion of the true. And Bowne says that objective sequence is the movement in reality, but it is a movement in thought also. So this sequence of causal units, it is a movement in reality and a movement in thought. The movement in thought is the logical sequence. Therefore, we have nature and the brute facts of nature, but we have the outer world of the real, and we have the logical sequence as that which is posited into the real. So you have nature, you have brute fact, but you have the world of reality, and then you have the posited logical sequence that make up the entirety of the factors we're dealing with in the system. But essentially, Bowne is saying we posit this logic into the realm of the real. Now, if you look under block 1, note 3, the synthesis of a objective sequence and logical sequence, thought must be replaced by thing. Our logic set in reality goes on without us in self-actualization. As actualized, it moves us toward transitions in our own state of mind. Remember, we transition from state of mind to state of mind. So, note 4, state of mind. State of mind is self-determined toward its manifestations. The state of mind will internalize the premises and then automatically move toward conclusion. State of mind is the ground for our created logical sequence. Think of state of mind as the realm of your conviction, the conviction of heart. And that is that which informs the construction of the true logical sequence. Now, under ground of event, interaction is the ground of event. There must include a cooperation with other agents. There's always an ongoing entrance into dialogue with others at the Dakunta threshold. We always have ongoing dialogue with members of the body of Christ. That's an ongoing dialogue that we have with others that will be included in this positing of the logical sequence into reality. But in block 1, I think if you just go up there to note 2, I think this is key for really summarizing block 1. If you go to note 2 under block 1, and go to the very bottom note there where it says that C, movement in thought equals logical sequence, and then D, therefore we have these aspects that make up system. And I've got 3 listed there. You've got nature and the brute facts of nature, the outer real world, and the logical sequence, which we posit into that outer real world and nature, both. Those are the 3 elements that are being emphasized within this system by Bowne. You do have that outer reality, and then we posit the logical sequence of causal units into that reality. But logical sequence next needs to move into the concrete, so in Block 2 we're going to take a look at effect set in reality. We've looked at the positing of logic in reality. Now let's take a look at the effect, the concrete effect, which becomes set in reality. And Bowne says that the logical determination of ideas creates the form of change. It creates change. Change passes into a new condition of being. And the stages are, number 1, there's change in primal effect, because we posit a new sign model. So there's change in primal effect. And then there's a practical focus down change into a sensate form. The theoretical gets focused down into the concrete. And then there is the actualization of praxis and the emergence of new forms. So change includes the theoretical, the practical, and praxis. Then we look at imminent action in note 2.2.2. We transition from dunamis to energia. And in the New Testament, the Spirit always is transitioning from dunamis, potentiality, to energia, actuality. Those 2 Greek terms stand for spiritual potentiality and spiritual actuality. So Spirit's always moving from dunamis, potentiality, to energia, actuality, asking for our participation. Now here's key for Bowne, okay? Take a look at 2b. We do not really see agency in all of this movement of change. We don't really see agency. With our eyes, we don't really see agency. We infer it spiritually. We infer agency spiritually, but we don't really see it. We don't really see in a sensate manner. We don't see agency. It is inferred spiritually. Agency takes up our formal concepts, the posited model as the will to verify our model, and then outgoing personalistic desire in praxis. But the key there is agency, because agency for Bowne represents his view of transcendence within his metaphysic. Transcendence within Bowne's system is the transcendence of agency. So this block 2 is all about the transcendence of agency. You've got the conviction of mindset in block 1, and now you've got the transcendence of agency in block 2. Let's go down to note 3, block 2, note 3. All activity is personal. Physical state emerges out of mental state. Interaction necessitates positing the notion of transcendence. For one thing to act upon another, it must transcend itself. So we posit transcendence because Bowne told us that, he's already told us that these causal units self-actualize. They cause change in reality. And that is a transcendent notion for Bowne. Interaction necessitates positing the notion of transcendence. For one thing to act upon another, it must transcend itself. And every concrete manifestation represents some form of being, a system. So, transcendence of agency creates new condition of being to emerge. There's the key axiom. Transcendence of agency creates new condition of being to emerge. The ground for change is that conviction of state of mind. And now we get transcendence of agency creating the new condition of being to emerge. So it's state of mind plus transcendence of agency. So note 4, block 2, note 4, our conclusion. There is the in itself process, and that consists of the posited primal effect, the practical sensate form that is focused down to the practical positing, then the actualized form of being as our praxis. And then outgoing agency takes place of the formal concepts through volitional positing and outgoing desire, and then the return of personal consciousness. The return moment feeds the self's state of mind, moving toward maturity. State of mind matures through ministry. We learn and gain self-understanding through ministering within kingdom. We, by participating in dialectic, mature our own state of mind, that base of conviction, which feeds the entire system. So we now have our motivational and conviction state of mind that is the ground of change within system in block 1. And in block 2 we now have the transcendence in Bowne's metaphysics as the transcendence of agency. So conviction plus transcendence takes us on to block 3, and it's going to be theory of interaction. The theory of interaction. So if you look at block 3, mature state of mind and transcendence of agency equal the theory of interaction. That really is how change takes place. Change takes place within system through the theory of interaction. We look at the concept of force. Things are implicated in one another's changes. This implies a harmonious community of being. Bad theories or poor theories of interaction are occasionalism, which says that interaction is the ideal only, or positivism says interaction is empirical only, or nihilism that says that interaction is myth and only the sensate exists, or the view from Leibniz that interaction equals system. All of those are poor definitions, says Bowne. So if you look at block 3, note 2, here is the author's authentic theory of interaction. This is the theory of change within system. Change proceeds from state of mind plus the agency of causal units. System is sustained in its ordering by the law of metaphysical correspondence. The law of metaphysical correspondence. As a knowing agent, we posit the conditions for manifestation for change that are going to take place. We posit the conditions for manifestation. Then things will change according to their true inner nature, because we are positing the true ideals, the true inner nature. System is an all-embracing harmony. Therefore, here's your conclusion from Bowne in this lesson. Change proceeds through conviction of the state of mind, then formation of a true model of causal units, and then the realm of positing of our theoretical model down to a practical agency, and then the action of praxis, which is the act of change. I'll read through that one more time, but basically that is your change proceeds through. First of all, you begin with the conviction of the state of mind. And then we form the true model of causal units as our theoretical model that wants to implement change. We focus that down and we posit the practical model, and that is agency, said Bowne. He says that becomes agency. And then we participate in action of praxis, outgoing desire, action of praxis. So, in the first 3 chapters, we were given the structure of Parker-Bowne's system. And that system was being plus idea equals a process of becoming. Now within this system, in this lesson, Bowne tells us, where's transcendence located? It's located in as the transcendence of agency. We don't see agency, we infer it spiritually. Transcendence is the transcendence of agency. And change is effected from the very, very first step, from state of mind, a mature state of mind, grounded in the spiritual, a mature state of mind. That's where change begins. But it passes through those 4 steps that we had in block 3 there, from state of mind to the model of the causal units to a practical agency positing, and then actual praxis ministry. So absolutely beautiful lesson to follow up after getting the structure. Chapter 4 is tremendous. We're going to have just a little bit additional material in 4, then we're going to move on to chapter 5 in the next lesson. But this takes us all the way up through page 118, and we have covered a significant amount of detail in Parker-Bowne's system. So we will pick up next time on page 119.